Welcome to Soirée's very first live Facebook happy hour. What's Soirée? Soirée is throwing a fantastic party, old school style, with all the details, but doing it in the modern age and not killing yourself at the same time. Now, we're hosting on Phantom Sway. I hope you guys check that out. There's some great artists of all different disciplines in Phantom Sway, so there's a little something for everyone. Tonight, for our happy hour cocktail party, we're going to demo some cocktails that you can do for Valentine's Day. So I've got a his and a hers cocktail to spice up your Valentine's Day and hopefully put you and your honey in the mood. The first cocktail I'm going to do is the his cocktail. I found it online. There's a website called liquor.com, literally. And they have a lot of great recipes. Now, you got to try them. Sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know where that came from. And sometimes you're like, wow, that's fantastic. They have the classics. They have some different interesting ones you wouldn't try. I love to check out different blogs and websites to expand my horizons and try things I hadn't tried before. So we're going to base both the his and hers cocktails on a sparkling wine. The reason for that, you can open a couple bottles, you can share them, it'll be a little easier for you and your bar won't get too cluttered. So we're going to start with the Sealback cocktail. It's a signature drink in the Sealback Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky. This is going to sound a little interesting, so bear with me. You're making it with bourbon and champagne. Yes, that's a little weird, but it's delicious. So what you want to do is you want to start with your favorite bourbon. I've got Buffalo Trace. I really like this as a mixing cocktail. If you're drinking bourbons neat, you may have a different bourbon that you prefer. But for cocktailing, this Buffalo Trace, you get the flavor, but it's not overpowering. It blends well with other flavors. I'm really a fan of that. The Sealback cocktail is a stirred cocktail versus a shaken cocktail. Now, what's the difference? In a stirred cocktail, you take a mixing glass like this. This is a classic mixing glass. I thought it was really pretty, so I got it. Amazon, I think it was like $10. You're going to fill it with ice, and you're going to get a spoon. Now, we're stirring because we want to mix the different liquors together, the different ingredients together in the cocktail. We're not trying to aerate them. We're not trying to froth anything, and we're not trying to get a whole lot of the melted water from the ice in it. So you want to take your bourbon of choice. Again, I have that Buffalo Trace, which I'm a big fan of. And we're going to put an ounce of the Buffalo Trace right into the mixing glass. The other ingredient that we have here is Cointreau. Now, when I make my margaritas, I cheat. I use triple sec. It's cheaper. And when you drink a margarita, you're drinking tequila. The tequila is a really strong spirit, and it tends to overwhelm the other flavors. But here, when you only have one or two ingredients, spend the extra money for Cointreau. You could do Grand Marnier here, but I tend to think the Grand Marnier is a tiny bit sweeter. This gets more of the true orange flavor. So we're going to take a half an ounce of Cointreau, and we're going to add this to the same mixing glass as we had the bourbon in. And that's all we're mixing in here. We're going to give this a little bit of a stir. You just want to mix this up. And then we're going to put a little bit of this in a champagne flute. So get it down there. Don't get any ice in. Okay, whoops, like I just did. Well, you know what? These things happen. I could have used a strainer, which I probably should have, but I didn't. So there we go. And now you're going to take your, that's one of my favorite sounds in the world. You're going to take whatever bubbly you have. Okay, so here's my thing with bubbly. I'm a bubbly aficionado. I adore all bubblies. I have an entire shelf in my fridge that's the bubbly dedicated shelf. One of my life mottos is, in case of emergency, pop cork. It's the best thing that you can do to celebrate life's joys and soothe the hard bumps that you run into. But you don't have to spend $1 million. So yeah, I like the fancy stuff, but if I'm mixing it in a cocktail, I tend to go with Prosecco or Cava. They're way less expensive. And you're getting the flavors of the other liquors in there, so it doesn't matter. Proseccos and Cavas are very affordable compared to the French champagnes. They're basically all white sparkling wines. It's just only sparkling wines made in France in approved regions by the Méthode Champenoise are allowed to be called champagnes. So I have got a bottle of Prosecco here. I'm going to top the bourbon with the Prosecco. And then I'm going to add some bitters. Now, bitters are concentrated aromatics that add a lot of flavor, so you only want a couple drops. They're very strong. Okay, I'm going to give this a little stir to get the bitters in here. And I'm going to garnish this with an orange rind. Now, if you take the rind of the orange and you twist it like this, you're expressing the oils of the rind into the cocktail, and you drop it. I'm going to call one of my guests over here. I got the his for the his. You want to give it a try?
Yes, definitely. It's different.
Okay.
It's good. No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, full disclosure, I haven't tried this cocktail yet. I was intrigued by the idea of doing a bourbon with a champagne. If your honey is not an experimental cocktail guy, skip the frou-frou for him. Buy him a bottle of what he likes and serve it neat, or if he's a red wine drinker, go to your wine store and ask the guy at the wine store what goes best with whatever you're cooking for dinner. Don't try to force someone to have something. Mark's very polite, but he's going, not sure.
No,
That's okay.
I like it.
I'm going to be rude.
I like it. As a bourbon drinker.
Actually, I think that's delicious.
No, it is.
It's weird. It's not bourbon-y.
No, it's not.
No.
But I'm a whiskey guy. So it's nice to kind of have something to cut the whiskey.
Well, and here's the other thing. You can drink several glasses of that with dinner and not get loaded. And so your Valentine's Day end can be as happy as your Valentine's Day beginning, rather than having too many cocktails and just being ready to go to sleep after dinner. So I didn't used to be a brown liquor girl at all, and I've really started learning that the different flavor profiles are interesting. And so you go for it. Buy a bottle of something weird sometimes. Try a recipe that you're not sure about. And when you regret it, just pour it down the sink and have something else. Always have like a backup emergency bottle. But
well, my New Year's resolution for I think it was for last year was to drink more champagne.
Oh well, that's an excellent New Year's resolution. That's a yearly thing for me. Oh, I like that. I enjoy that. Sorry for getting lipstick on your glass.
It's okay. Thank you for the drink.
No, you're welcome. So I'm gonna make a hers cocktail. Although I'm gonna make myself one of those in a minute. For the hers cocktail, I am doing a riff on a very classic French cocktail, a Cure Royale. So a Cure Royale is a traditional French cocktail made with a creme liqueur, fruit creme liqueur, and either sparkling wine, champagne, or still wine, white, both white. Now, the traditional way that I've had Cure Royales is creme de cassis with champagne or Prosecco or what have you topped on top of it. But I have a favorite. I have a couple options here, but I have a favorite. So my very first trip to Paris, I'm in this very nice restaurant and we're ordering like a little aperitif. And they had a version of a Cure Royale with some kind of liqueur that I didn't know what the word meant. I didn't know the word for it in English. And I got it and it was so delicious that I called the waiter over who spoke no English, and my French is marginal at best. And I was trying to ask him what this fruit liqueur was in my cocktail, and he didn't know the word for it in English, and he brought the bottle over. There was no picture on the bottle. So we were both out of luck, but when I went back to the apartment I was staying in, we actually Googled it. So it's creme de mûre. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry, Frenchies. It's blackberry liqueur. It's really gorgeous. The thing I like about blackberries is they have a sweetness but a tartness at the same time. So it's not overly sweet. So when you do a Cure Royale, really all you're doing is putting about a half an ounce to an ounce, depending on how much flavor you want in it, into the bottom of a champagne flute. And then you want to top it with your bubbly of choice. Again, I've got a very affordable Prosecco here. And see how that foams up? Let the head go down a little bit. You've got a really beautiful garnet color from the creme de mûre. If you use a creme de cassis, you're going to get that similar effect. There are other options here I'm going to show you. I like to, again, express a little orange peel over it. And if you want, I use the other end. Give it a taste. Shall we have someone try it? Here's a hers. We got another guest here that's going to give a try.
Okay, hi.
So,
all right,
give it a try. Now, do you like sweet drinks?
I do.
Okay, so you might like this one because the creme liqueurs, the fruit liqueurs, they're a little bit on the sweet side. I don't have a heavy hand with them when I pour them.
I don't like too sweet, but I do like sweet.
And you want a little bit of the color and everything. It's like romantic and fun.
And I love champagne. I love champagne.
If you're at Morehouse, it's likely that you do because I don't have very many friends that don't. So.
All right,
well, cheers. Give that a try.
Ooh,
it's nice, huh?
It's has some floral. I don't know. I'm not very smart with drinks. It tastes really good.
You just have to know what you like. It's not about being smart. I know nothing about wine, but if you hand me a glass of something and I say, oh, it's yummy, that's all I care about. I don't need to be a snob about it. I don't need to be like, oh, I know this vintage. That's great if you do, if that's your thing. But I don't think people should be intimidated by food or alcohol or any of this kind of stuff. It should really be about sharing pleasure with yourself and your guests. So please don't be afraid to say, I don't know what that is, and give it a try and not be like, I don't know. You know, I think I stopped a long time ago being embarrassed about my lack of knowledge of things because I'm not going to know anything. Even if you study this all day and that's all you do, you're not going to learn everything. So it's like, find what you like, be comfortable with it. And the nice thing about saying, I've never tried that or I don't know about it is sometimes somebody else can say, oh, this is what this is. And then you've learned a new thing that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple more versions of this.
Okay.
Again,
take this and sit down.
I'll make you guys another one, then one for me. A couple other ways I like to do this, and this is not a classic Kir Royale, but I'm just kind of doing a play on an augmented flavored bubbly. So this is a really, I have this liquor store that I go to in LA, and I call it affectionately the candy store because I'm a kid in the candy store. So kind of like when I go to Trader Joe's, I always try to buy one thing that I've never tried before. And you fit it into your budget and you figure out what makes sense, but try a new flavor, try a new item. I went there one time and I bought this pamplemousse. It's a red ruby grapefruit liqueur, and it's gorgeous. It's got, like Kira said, that florally taste, but it's got the citrus, and I think that this is super pretty. So I sometimes like to make I guess I can't really call it a Kir Royale, but a Kir Royale-esque faux Royale with a little bit of this grapefruit liqueur. And it's really just lovely and crisp and sharp and not too heavy and sweet. That's the thing if you're serving these drinks with your Valentine's Day meal, or maybe you're having a couple aperitifs before the meal and then you're doing wine with dinner or what have you. You don't want it to be sweet and cloying because that actually deadens your appetite and your taste buds. So a pre-dinner drink should be kind of crisp and light, and that's one of the reasons why champagne is such a popular pre-dinner drink. Now I'm going to get a little MacGyver there with a little straw because I've dirtied my stirring spoon already. And I'm going to try this one. This is the grapefruit liqueur. What I really like about this is with the flute, when you're using a liqueur that's aromatic, you start to smell it before you start to taste it. So it's really like a double sensory pleasure. This one doesn't have the nice color as the other one that I gave Kira did, but I can smell the grapefruit. And unlike flavored vodkas, which we'll have a whole nother conversation about that, it doesn't have that chemically weird melted lifesaver flavor. This really does smell like you've taken a ruby grapefruit and expressed it into your champagne. It's fantastic. I kind of wish you could all try this. Well, I have my camera person here, and she's looking a little thirsty. So I'm going to make her one of my favorites. This is not something I'd serve with dinner, but a before dinner or even an after dinner if you want would be great. This is a classic champagne cocktail. This is one of the first cocktails, like real grown-up cocktails I ever had. I had it at the Four Seasons. I was right out of college and it was like my first real big girl job, and I was in a department store in their cosmetics area, and one of the regional VPs or whatever of Lancome, and she was very French, Dahlia. I pulled up in my total hoopty because I had this like old car that I'd inherited from somebody in the family because I could afford it. and I'm pulling up in a green 1979 Chrysler Cordoba to the Four Seasons. No kidding. And I was like horrified. And this is like one of my favorite like work memories. The valets opened my car door like I was in a Bentley. They couldn't have been more lovely. And it was just, I was like, my embarrassment turned to, wow, this is really nice. And so we have our meeting, and then we go down to the bar, and Dahlia says, we must all have champagne cocktails. And I'd never had one. We weren't super fancy growing up, despite what you may see now. So I had no idea what it was, but I thought it sounded fabulous, and I admired the heck out of her because she was so elegant and so put together, and she like never had a hair out of place, never anything. They make these champagne cocktails in front of us, and they hand it to us, and it's just, it's elegance in a glass. It's classic, it's elegant, it's simple. At that point I hadn't been to Paris, and I'm like, I'm in Paris right now on a sidewalk cafe, and I'm having this elegant thing. So champagne cocktails have like a little special place in my heart, and I make them all the time at home. Again, just a few ingredients, really simple. To start a champagne cocktail, you're gonna take a sugar cube. Now, I have a box of these in the house. They last forever. I think this is the only thing I do with them is this cocktail, and there might be one more cocktail I make with these, but anyway. Oh yeah, old fashioned. So, thank you. Mark's like, old fashioned, old fashioned. You take a sugar cube and drop it in the bottom of a champagne flute, and then take some bitters. Now these are Angostura bitters, Fee Brothers, Peychaud. There's a couple of really famous bitters brands. You can get whatever you like. For this cocktail, I'm going to use the classic bitters. I do have a whole shelf in the bar full of flavored bitters of all different kinds, but I think for this purpose, we want the classic bitters. You just want to shake a couple drops of the bitters onto the sugar cube. Now, because my glasses are a little fancy, I can't show you the sugar cube in here because the gold leafing covers it, but take my word for it. And then that's kind of it. You're gonna take that and you're gonna top it with your bubbly, and try not to knock over the other drink that you have right next to it. I always have a little contest with myself. Is like, can I fill it without going over? But I want to see the mousse, the bubbles. So you want to get that up. And I like to fill my cocktails fairly high because then you have less time that you have to spend mixing them. And again, I'm going to the orange zest, and I'm going to express it there. And that's a classic champagne cocktail. Give it a little stir. You get a little bit of a sweetness from the sugar cube, a little bit of bitterness from the bitters, and then a classic champagne. And I'm gonna, it's ready for its close-up, Mr. DeMille.
It looks great.
I'm gonna give this to a hand off camera to taste.
Take that.
Oh, they're fighting over the cocktails right now. So,
whoa!
What do we think? Do we like? Kira, give it a try.
Oh my
Give
God.
it a try.
Yes.
I still have my other cocktail.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm too double fisting. That's very.
Look, that's why God gave us
classy.
2 hands.
All right, for
Right.
drinks.
Well, we like variety.
It is. It's Paris in a glass.
It is.
I
it
love your
is.
story because it makes me. I've never been to Paris, and it makes me feel like.
I didn't go until I was
That's
a grown
how I
up.
would feel.
Yeah, and it was like I always loved the elegance of things, and the thought that there was still this beautiful, mannerly, elegant place with style. And that's actually what I found when I went there, and I had a remarkable time both times. But when I'm home, I still love bringing in these little things. When I make my gougères, my little cheesy puffs, it makes me think of that. When I have champagne cocktails, it makes me think of that. And so when you go on a trip or you go somewhere, bring a piece of that trip home with you in a flavor you haven't tried, a food, a cocktail,
You know, I never think about that because when you travel, you think about getting like I collect salt and pepper shakers. So I
That's
think
cute,
about
though.
getting salt and pepper shakers, or you think about sending your mom a postcard. You never really think about taking a flavor back with you.
I the last night that I was in that Paris trip, the first time I went, the same trip with the Creme de Mure, my sister and I were at we rented an apartment, like an Airbnb type of thing, and then our last night we stayed in a hotel so we could get to the airport very easily the next morning. And we were sitting at the cafe at the hotel, and they had a cocktail menu, and they had this cocktail, and I think it was called the Paris Chic. And I had another ingredient. Wait, if I can get this out, I'll actually get this. I have a bottle of them in the fridge. Okay, so they bring these cocktails, and it's champagne, and I think it had like a little bit of rum, and it had this. These are hibiscus flowers and rose syrup. They're so, Kira, there might be a champagne. Yeah, that here. Let's get this loop. I want to show you guys what this looks like because it's just really, really pretty. And it gives such incredible color. So this was the cocktail I ordered. Now, the funny thing was, the waitress comes out. Oh, so this is in the bottom of the glass. Sorry, I made a little bit of a mess. And that's really all, and then you top it with the bubbly. Apologies. That's not as neat as it could be. The cocktail I got at that hotel, again, they had like a little bit of rum or something else in there, but see how the flour effervesces, and it's even bubbling more than just the champagne, and it's in this syrup, so you get like a little bit of sweetness with that. It was gorgeous. Now, of course, the waitress comes with the tray, carrying it high to us, and she had my sister's cocktail and my cocktail, and she dumps, and it was a really tall champagne glass, like taller than this. She dumps the whole thing into my lap.
Oh no!
And so fortunately I was wearing a black dress, so it didn't matter. But I laughed, and the waitress was horrified, and the manager came over, and I said in my horrible broken French, I said, "That's okay, I was just christened by Paris." Oh. So it was like, I felt it was fun. But this is like another really pretty way you can spice up your champagne. These flowers, they look really fancy. I've purchased them on Amazon. I've bought them at gourmet and specialty markets. They're, whoops, I'm going to turn it forward. Hibiscus flowers in syrup, and sometimes they're hibiscus flowers in rose syrup, which has like a tiny bit of rose water in it. So they're a little bit sweet, but they're really kind of spectacular. It's like fireworks going off in your glass. So I'm just going to keep on handing Kira drinks to drink because apparently
you can't hand me too many. It's just a little extra sweetness.
Yeah. It's simple. I'm not doing a lot to the bubbly here.
Yeah, this doesn't really change the profile that much, but it looks
it's more of a,
yeah.
And
like I could see going to a party, one of your parties, one of your soirees, and seeing a bunch of these lined up on the table. You know, with some great decorations next to them.
I actually have done these for a bridal shower before. Because again, it's just this really, a little bit of excitement in your glass. One, it's affordable. These aren't super expensive. A jar will take you through a whole party. They're, you put one per glass. They really go very far. And you can use the syrup. Like if you run out of the actual flowers in there, you could just pour a little bit of the syrup in. But I love having these options. So you take a basic bottle of bubbly. Look, some of the Prosecco's I buy are like $10 a bottle. These are not expensive. And you take just a little tablespoon of this, an ounce of that, and you're really elevating them and making them elegant. So it's like a bottle of bubbly is special enough on its own, believe me. I have no problem appreciating the pureness of that. But when you want to do something a little special, like for Valentine's Day, you just want to have that little extra something to say, I've spent a little time thinking about you. I want tonight to be special. I want our night to be special. And it's little touches. They're not hard to do. They're not expensive. It's really all about thinking a little ahead and saying, how can I do something to make the ordinary less ordinary for just a night? I'm going to give you one more little tip here. So when years ago,
I had sit down.
Had a little cocktail blog, and it was fantastic, and we had great fun with it. When I was learning new liqueurs, and I was a vodka girl forever. I didn't know what all this stuff was for when I started out. And it was really all about, let's buy a bottle of this and try it. Let's find a recipe online and say, oh, what's that? And try it. One of the first bottles that we bought when we were trying out all sorts of new recipe was Saint Germain. This now is one of the most popular liqueurs that you'll see in bars. It's kind of called the bartender's best friend because Saint Germain makes every cocktail, not every cocktail, but Saint Germain is a lovely, lovely ingredient that adds this wonderful floral, aromatic, sweet flavor and scent to cocktails. It's elderflower liqueur. That sounds a little weird. It's not florally like soap florally or perfume florally, but it just has this really pretty. Mark may have to open this for me because I haven't had it open in a while. So the cap's stuck on. Don't you love live? Uh-oh.
It always takes a man.
I know.
Happy Valentine's Day.
See, they're very handy to have around. It's this, I don't know if you can, actually it's not as, if you just smell it, it's not going to be as nice.
But it
I'm
does,
going to put it in, yeah, I'm going to grab yet another glass out of here because I know I have a lot of glasses in here. Where's another flute? Oh! Here's another flute. Yes, I have a lot of glassware. So if you want to do another just riff on a champagne cocktail, put a little bit of the Saint Germain in the bottom of a glass and top it with bubbly. Saint Germain and champagne are like peanut butter and jelly in a glass. They're best friends. Ooh, I may have to open one at the bottom. They're just gorgeous. I love Saint Germain. There's probably a dozen cocktails that I make that use this in some manner or another, and it really is a versatile go-to liqueur. Buy yourself a bottle of this. The other thing I love about this, the bottle is just so darn pretty. It looks like a French champagne, a French perfume bottle, which I love. So I actually put I'm going to hand this off to somebody. I actually put a spigot on one of these, and I use it as my dish soap container because I love this.
I love
yeah,
that
because
idea.
so I repurpose. If you get really great liquor bottles, you can repurpose them. So the Saint Germain, as I said, I have my dish soap in there. There's a vodka that I used to buy, that it was a floral vodka called Pinky, and I liked the bottle, so I bought these little strainers, and I use them for my olive oil when I cook on the stove. So don't be afraid to take the shape of bottles that you love and repurpose them. You can put bubble bath, you can put dish soap, you can put olive oil. You know, if you like the shape, just use it again. So. Well, I think we have given you a lot of really great options for your Valentine's Day cocktail evening. And thank you so much for joining us here on Soirée. Thank you, Phantom Sway, for hosting. And hopefully we will see you again soon for another Soirée Cocktail Facebook Live Happy Hour. Cheers.